Once upon a time, in a village cradled between rolling hills and whispering bamboo groves, there lived a woman named Mutandi. Mutandi was known throughout the village as a peculiar woman, mostly because she did not bathe her son Ni from the day he was born. Now, this wasn't just a personal choice. It was a tradition deeply rooted in their culture. Every mother in the village took great pride in bathing their newborns in a big clay pot filled with water. Yes. Ceremony wasn't just about hygiene. It was a way to welcome the child into the community, a declaration of their existence to the world. But Mutondi kept Ni hidden away in their hut, never parading him before the community, never bringing out the sound of gurgling water. As days turned into weeks, the villagers started to murmur. The curious whispers grew into pointed discussions. Some said Mutondi was too afraid to show her child, because he was born with some kind of deformity. Others spoke of strange illnesses passed down from generations ago, claiming Ni might be afflicted by one. And then came the unkind rumors. They said Mutondi was too lazy to bathe her son. They claimed she preferred hiding him away rather than performing the sacred ritual. These rumors took root and blossomed into taunts and sneers. Other women in the village who had paraded their babies began to mock Mutondi, calling her a disgrace to motherhood, saying her child must stink worse than a dead rat. Mutandi's son, Ni, despite his mother's seclusion, grew stronger and healthier than any child in the village. However, the village children, tainted by the adults' whispers, started to throw stones at Nihai's hut, chanting mocking songs. Soon, Nihai's world became his hut, his mother's comforting presence, and the surrounding trees. The once beautiful bamboo grove became his prison. One evening, the villagers went too far. They stood outside Mutandi's hut, screaming and yelling, demanding she bring her son out. If she didn't, they threatened to burn her house down. Mutandi, holding Ni close, knew she couldn't hide forever. She opened the door and stepped out. The villagers, armed with torches, surged forward, ready to tear down the hut. But Mutondi raised her head and shouted, "Stop!" Their taunts and jeers fell silent. She looked them in the eye and said, "You may mock me and call me names, but my son's absence is not due to laziness or illness. He is simply not ready to meet the world yet." She then added, "You may force me out of my home, but know this, my son will return. And when he does, you will beg for forgiveness." The villagers, enraged by her defiance, grabbed Mutandi and Ni, dragging them towards the edge of the village. "Get out!" they yelled. "Don't ever come back." Mutandi and Ni left the village, walking side by side. Ni, though scared, understood his mother's bravery. As they ventured deeper into the woods, they found solace in each other's company. The tall trees became their protectors, the thick foliage their roof. Meanwhile, in the village, the absence of Mutandi and Ni created a void. No one dared speak their names. Tear. Any mention of them brought back the memory of the seeress prophecy and the fear of its fulfillment. After Mutondi and Ni had been gone for 2 years, one day, the sky turned dark, winds howled, and heavy rain poured down. People huddled in their homes, praying for the storm to pass. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck a tree near the old seer's hut. When the villagers saw this, they panicked. The seer had predicted that the fulfillment of the prophecy would start with a powerful storm. They remembered Mutandi's warnings and realized that they had wronged her. They started to cry out, begging for forgiveness. As if in response to their pleas, the sky cleared up and a rainbow arched across the horizon. Everyone rushed out of their houses and looked up. That's when they saw Ni and Mutondi standing in front of them. Ni was no longer the toddler they remembered. He was a young man, tall and strong, with skin as smooth and dark as polished ebony. Mutondi too seemed different, not older, but somehow more serene, as if the years had been kind to her. "We are sorry," the villagers said shamefacedly. "We know we have been wrong." Mutondi, however, did not reply. Instead, she placed a hand on Niai's shoulder and said, "I kept my promise, didn't I?" Then, turning to the villagers, she said, "The reason I kept my son away was not because of illness or deformity, but because of a prophecy. An old seer once told me that my son was born with a special gift. He has the power to purify the land and drive away evil. But this power could only be awakened when he meets someone whose tears can water the dry earth. Until then, he would be safe only in the forest. The villagers gasped. They had rejected the prophecy long ago, choosing to believe their own rumors instead. Ni approached them and said, "I am here now, and you can see I am not cursed. I am healthy and strong." The villagers bowed their heads, ashamed of their behavior. They offered gifts and apologies, and Ni accepted them graciously. But Mutondi shook her head. "Apologies mean nothing," she said. "Show me by your actions that you have changed." The villagers promised to do whatever they could to make amends. So they decided to hold a grand festival, inviting everyone from nearby villages. The whole town buzzed with activity. People were setting up stalls, decorating their homes, and most importantly, planning to welcome Ni and his mother back. The festival lasted 3 days, and Ni and Mutondi finally felt accepted. The villagers had indeed changed. They were warm and welcoming, and they treated Mutondi and Ni like royalty. However, as the 3rd day drew to a close, something strange happened. The sky, which had been so vibrant and cheerful for the past 3 days, darkened, mirroring the turmoil in people's hearts. The villagers, caught up in the merriment of the festival, had forgotten about the prophecy. And as the darkness descended, their worst fears returned. What if the prophecy wasn't over? Was Ni truly the chosen one? Did his presence really purify the land? These questions hung in the air, heavier than the storm clouds above. Fear took root, growing like a weed in fertile ground. Rumors started swirling again, this time questioning Ni's very purpose. People began to distance themselves from him, their smiles fading, replaced by wary glances. The warmth that had welcomed them back was replaced by a chill that seeped into their bones. The final day of the festival arrived, and with it, a sense of foreboding. The villagers, plagued by doubt and fear, started to whisper again. They avoided Ni and Mutondi, their voices dropping to hushed tones whenever the couple passed by. The joy of the celebration had curdled into unease, turning the once lively festival into a haunted affair. As night fell, covering the village in an eerie darkness, the truth of the matter was revealed. The chief priest, a beacon of wisdom in their community, fell gravely ill. His ailment baffled the local healers, and the village elder declared it a punishment from the gods. "The prophecy," the elder cried. "The prophecy is coming true." Overwhelmed with fear, the villagers remembered their treatment of Ni and Mutondi and realized their mistake. They sent a delegation to apologize and ask for forgiveness. Mutondi listened to them patiently, her eyes filled with understanding. "Slow. I know what you're thinking," she said softly. "You think my son is cursed, that he brought misfortune upon you." The villagers nodded. Shamefaced, Mutondi continued, "But let me tell you, he is not the source of your misfortune. It is your judgments, your unfounded fears and accusations that have brought you to this point." The villagers, humbled, could only bow their heads in acceptance of their wrongdoing. Ni, sensing his mother's sadness, approached the villagers. Looking into their fearful eyes, he said, "I am not cursed. My mother shielded me from your judgments, not because I am a burden, but because you were not ready to accept me." The villagers wept, realizing the depth of their error. They had judged a soul without giving it a chance. Ni, with compassion in his voice, said, "Do not blame yourselves. Let us work together to fix what we can." And that is what they did. The villagers, led by Ni and guided by Mutondi, started to heal the land. They planted new crops, cleaned the river, and most importantly, started to trust each other again. As the land began to flourish, so did the village. Phil learned to look beyond appearances, embracing compassion and understanding. And so, the tale of Ni and Mutondi became a legend in that village. A reminder that sometimes the greatest curse is our own judgment.